Why, yes, that is in fact a picture of me circa 1987 when I was working at Silver Platters in Bellevue, Washington. Ha 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 ha. This episode of Robservations is sponsored by The John Campea Show. Find The John Campea Show on YouTube and the audio version wherever you get your podcasts. Greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, Robert Meyer Burnett. I invite you to watch and listen to the Designing Hollywood podcast, brought to you by Martika Ibarra and the great, legendary Hollywood costume designer, Marilyn Vance. I am afforded the wonderful opportunity of co-hosting the show. If you are interested in the magic of Hollywood, the design of Hollywood, the clothes of Hollywood, watch the Designing Hollywood podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts from, or find the video version on the John Campea YouTube channel. That's right, the Designing Hollywood podcast. Why would you ever want to miss it, especially if you love the movies?
Hey, my name is King, or as some of you might know me better, Israel. I've gotten around, but hopefully you recognize me from my own channel, King Tannic. There's a new show coming to the Burnettwork that I think is pretty exciting. Welcome to the Otaku Experience, hosted by yours truly. There is going to be a weekly series where we dive into the news and the world of anime, manga, and whatever the heck else Japan has to offer us. The show will be pre-recorded and premiere on Thursdays at 2 p.m. Pacific Time or 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Burnettwork YouTube channel.
Well, that was quite a clipped opening. Anyway, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of sci-fi and cinema, your evangelist of the imagination, and, of course, the as-yet undefined existential Mr. Rogers. That's right, me, Robert Meyer Burnett, and I am robcasting at you. You, imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community. This is, for those keeping score at home, Robservations episode 851. Now, you would have thought that after May the 4th be with you and delving into my past, into Nostalgiaville, that I would be tired of it. But no, because I actually read an article on letterboxd.com that was published yesterday that I was like, this is great. I have to share it. But I am going to go down that nostalgia road to sort of set up where I'm going with all this. So, as many of you know, I mean, obviously, if you're not a stranger to this channel, you know that for the last couple of years, Dieter Bastian from Saarbrücken, Deutschland, and myself have been doing Let's Get Physical Media, a show where we celebrate what we've got for the week. Let's Get Physical Media on Sundays. So Penny asks in the chat how many puppies left. There are six puppies left. And as you can see, since you asked the question, this is the first family that picked up a puppy. They picked up Pinky. They picked her up, and that's Pinky. That's the new family with Pinky, and that's their daughter, who I think is 2. And she has the same color hair, and they renamed Pinky to Maple, which is totes adorbs in my book. And you too. Look, they might be at a premium price, but I'm telling you, these puppies are worth it. They're damn fun. They're great puppies. So there are 6 left. I can't keep a puppy. We can't have 4 dogs. It would just, as much as I want to keep Chartreuse, I can't do it. Anyway, I wanted to tell you my history as growing up. You heard about me being a big science fiction fan, but I was also a fan of all movies. So I was a kid. I was movie crazy from a young age, and I just loved all kinds of movies. I loved James Bond movies. I ended up loving dramas. I loved comedies. I loved musicals. I just love movies. And in 1978, now I had heard I had seen VCRs and I had seen, why is my phone ringing as I'm doing a show? That's terrible. If I was on set, I would have had to put money into the jar. I'm on my own set and my phone went off. What does that say about me? Anyway, so I probably had seen VCRs, but in 1978, I saw Laserdiscs for the first time. And this thumbnail, that is me in 1987 as the manager and buyer of what was at then the 4-store Silver Platters chain. It was a store at one time. It was the largest. We were the biggest selling optical disc only store in the world. And I was there, the manager and buyer there for Laserdiscs from 86 through 88. And I left when I moved to California. Just before that, actually. So anyway, Laserdiscs, the reason I had seen Laserdiscs, people are like, Laserdiscs in 1978? Yes. So there were 2 initial test markets where they rolled out. Back then it was MCA, and Laserdiscs were called DiscoVision. MCA DiscoVision. And it was interesting because Laserdiscs, there was 2 kinds of Laserdiscs. There was, I'll get to the CED Laserdisc later, but there were 2 kinds of Laserdiscs. There was CAV discs, and then there was CLV discs. And CAV discs were constant angular velocity discs, and CLV discs were constant linear velocity discs. And the difference was CAV discs would get a half an hour per side, but you could get perfect still frames because it was basically one rotation of the disc was one frame, sort of. Just think of it that way to keep it easier. So you could actually have a perfect still frame on a Laserdisc. And what that actually allowed you to do when Criterion started to do this in 1984 was you could click through and have individual frames. So if you wanted to watch special effects sequences, or if they wanted to put text frames for special features on Laserdiscs, they could. So the initial test markets in 78 were Seattle and Houston, Texas. So before Christmas, I would go down. I used to love to take the bus down, and I was 11. I had a friend named Jeff Swafford. I still have a friend named Jeff Swafford, and when he was 10 years old, Seattle had a great public transportation system, and Jeff was really into literally planes, trains, automobiles, anything to do with public transport. And our public transportation system in Seattle was very, very good. So where we grew up on Mercer Island, you could take buses and go to downtown Seattle. And what Jeff would do was he would plot these, we'd get these bus schedules every 3 months. And our fathers both worked in the Seafirst Bank building, which was at the time the biggest building in Seattle. But in the lobby, they had all of the bus schedules. His dad would get them for him. And Jeff would plot these long trips. Like we would get a bus pass. It was 50 cents all day for Saturday and Sunday. And he would plot these like epic bus trips where we would go from downtown, or our home, to downtown Seattle and just wander around. We go to the Ballard Locks. Sometimes we went to the SeaTac Airport to watch the planes take off. And we were 10. We started doing this when we were 10. I can't even imagine 10-year-old kids doing that today. But we were all over the city. But what that allowed us to do was we would go to all the big department stores, whether it was the Bon Marché or Frederick and Nelson or anywhere that had like electronics places. We would go in and check it all out because, your kids, everything was amazing. So that's where I first saw, I want to say it was in Frederick and Nelson. I think it was in Frederick and Nelson's. And they had a big electronics department on the top floor. And that's where I saw Laserdiscs for the first time. And they were all CAV because they didn't have CLV discs then. So it was a half an hour aside. And they would come in these like silver, like MCA, you can Google it, MCA DiscoVision. And I remember seeing Jaws and these silver, they weren't very durable, but they looked cool at the time. And they had this like puffy cardboard or something, and you'd flip it open. I mean, it felt important, and there was weight to it, because it would take to get a 2-hour movie. Sometimes you'd have to have 3 discs to get the whole movie in, and it was dope, man. And I remember thinking, this is so. I mean, you'd pick a Laserdisc up, and it was the same size as an LP, but it was like a giant CD. But there'd be rainbow reflections, and you could see all of the encoding, and it was amazing. And then concurrently to that, that's why Laserdiscs and VCRs are kind of, I mean, there were 3/4-inch VCRs, but consumer VCRs were a little earlier, like 77. But they basically were introduced, home video was introduced to the general population at about the same time, 77, 78. But to me, I mean, as a kid, as an 11-year-old kid, I'm like, what the fuck? I'm not, no one's, who's going to, a VCR was $1,500. How am I going to get one of those? And as I told you yesterday, my friend Jimmy Fiddler, his parents were pretty wealthy. His mom and dad were great. His dad had bought I want to say it was probably Beta, but had a VCR, and he somehow acquired a bootleg videotape of Star Wars. And we would go to his house and watch the Star Wars videotape every day. But I didn't have one. And because I was going to have a bar mitzvah, my grandfather, Ralph Schoenfeld, had a furniture store in Tacoma, Washington called Schoenfeld's Furniture. That was a family business that actually started in Tombstone, Arizona around the time of Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp. And then they had moved the business up during the Gold Rush era. It had gone to California, to San Francisco, and eventually settled in Seattle. And then when it was kind of a doorway to the Gold Rush. But so this building, Schoenfeld's Furniture, it's not there anymore, but it was a 10-story building, and it also had an electronics department because at the time, I mean, I don't know when Schoenfeld's Furniture actually started. There was Ken Schoenfeld as well, but I want to say it started in the 40s or 50s in Seattle, maybe even earlier. And people would go to Schoenfeld's and furnish their entire house. It wasn't like you'd buy a bunch of pieces elsewhere. You'd go to a furniture store and like furnish your entire house. So that's what it was like. Like the first floor was all carpets, and it was so much fun to play in these giant carpets, you know, these giant rolled up carpets, because you'd crawl on them, you could fall in between them. It was dope. So I keep saying dope. So I asked for my bar mitzvah. I was 13, May of 1980. Empire Strikes Back coming out. I was the first kid, other than like Jimmy Fiddler. There's probably others, but I didn't know any. So I got a VCR. I got an RCA VFT 625 VHS player. And at the time, you know, it had the piano key buttons and that when the ejector thing, when you'd hit eject, they didn't have springs on them. They just pop out. And I had a VCR, got a VCR. And my parents, for my bar mitzvah, they bought me one videotape and a Dogtown skateboard. I had a Dogtown deck, Tracker X track trucks, and Kryptonic 65 millimeter wheels. So there you go. And then the tape they bought me was Halloween. John Carpenter's Halloween was the first videotape I ever got. And then subsequent to that, I got a few more. I got like The Exorcist. I got Dark Star on VCI. And a few more tapes. But there was not, the studios at the time had not released Warner Brothers, you could get Warner Brothers movies and you could get Fox movies, because a guy named Andre Blay had gone to 20th Century Fox and said, hey, I want to license 50 of your movies and put them out on home video. And they were like, why would you want to do that? So Andre Blay, who later went on to produce movies like John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness. So Andre Blay said, no, just leave that up to me. Don't worry. As long as I can, license them from you. And funny enough, Andre Blay, Fox had to go back to Andre Blay and get their movies back when home video took off. So in 1980, it was not uncommon for 15 kids to be at my house, boys and girls, watching movies. And, you know, occasionally my mom would get phone calls. Your son showed my daughter Animal House, and there's nudity and sexuality in it. And my mom was so funny. She's like, uh-huh. Like, what was she going to do? I mean, my mom's not going to be like, I will say this, though. I want to say that it was Dan Crowley and Randy Aramura and myself. The very first pornographic movies that I saw, I want to say Dan Crowley got them. Thank you, Dan. We had Devil and Miss Jones, Behind the Green Door, and Deep Throat. Those are the three movies that he got. We were watching Behind the Green Door. Pornography scared the shit out of me when I first saw it. I mean, it was mind-blowing. The penises looked like giant fucking sandworms from Arrakis, and the giant caves of glory that women carried with them. I had no idea. It was the most insane shit ever. Watching those porn films was shocking. positively shocking. Now it just seems crazy, but I'll tell you a funny story. So we're down. So we had one of those split level, kind of like Brady Bunch houses where it's 2-story, but then it's split level, mid-century 1960s house. And there's a garage door that opens, 2-car garage. And then behind the garage was the family room where the VCR was and our laundry, the washer and dryer were. Well, you could hear it. We had an electronic garage door. It would open. You could hear the garage door open. But if it was like the summer and the garage door was open because kids were always going in and out or whatever, you couldn't, a car could come in and you wouldn't hear it. So there we were watching Behind the Green Door. And I didn't hear my dad. I didn't hear his car door shut. I could always hear the creak of the doorknob to the inside of the house. And I literally was like in our love seat. And when I heard that knob, I swear to God, defied the laws of physics. I flew out of the love seat that I was sitting in and I slammed the TV off before my dad walked in seconds. And then I'm standing on the ground having flown across the room. Clearly my dad probably saw me flying, and I did fly. And he looks at me and he looks at Randy and he looks at Dan Crowley. And he says, Rob, would you, actually, he said Bobby. He said, Bobby, can you please turn the TV on? And I was thinking that maybe because, oh no, we were not watching Behind the Green Door. We were watching Devil and Miss Jones because it started out like a horror film. And I figured, okay, I'm going to turn the TV on and maybe Georgina Spelvin will not be doing something that I shouldn't be watching at 13. Maybe I'll get lucky. I turned on the TV thinking, I've got a chance. No, she was just working the knob, and my dad's like, boys, go home. Get out of here. And I mean, it couldn't have been more graphic. I think there was probably a money shot right there when my dad was watching. And my dad took my VCR away for, for 2 weeks. That was terrible. That was just an aside. But anyway, the point I was trying to make is and after that, actually probably before that, Seattle had what was generally considered at the time the second video store in the United States. Video Station, Andre Blaze Video Station here in California, in Los Angeles on Wilshire Boulevard, I believe, was the first video store. But Video Space was the second. And Video Space was started by a gentleman named Weston Nishimura, who later went on to found the VSDA, the Video Software Dealers Association of America, which became a big group. So his store was in Magnolia Video. It was a small store, and I used to just go there, 13-year-old kid, and would wander around and just look at the movies and pick up the boxes. The boxes, they had the tapes taken out, put in these faux leather cases, and then the tapes were re-shrink wrapped and put out on the shelves. And what you could do then, you had two choices. You could buy a tape and keep it, a new tape and keep it, or you could buy a tape and then every month you could have it for 30 days. This is so weird, but this is how it started. You could have it for 30 days and then bring it back and then pay $10 and get another new movie if you wanted. And that's how it worked. And so because I was in the store all the time, I used to sometimes I'd come like every day, and there was nothing new in the store, but I would come every day. And the guys that ran it are this guy, Bud Warner. He's like, listen, kid, why don't we'll give you a job. So they figured I was there anyway. So might make me useful. And so my job was to unbox the new tapes that would come in, and I would take the tape out and put it in the faux leather sleeve, and then I'd take a piece of styrofoam and put it back into the box, and then I learned how to use the shrink wrap machine, which is basically, you slipped the box in, and you'd have to use this. It was like this red hot wire, and you'd seal it on either side. Then you use a hot blow dryer, and shrink the plastic so it had to look like it was in an unopened box, and you put it back on the shelf. That was my job. And sometimes I was able to work the register and give people their tapes. So I did that, and that was kind of my first job. I didn't get paid. They didn't pay me. But, I could take tapes home, which was even better than getting paid, as far as I was concerned. So this was the proto era, and not many people had VCRs. Like, I was there I remember the first day that we got the first box. MCA Disco Vision, we got the first box of tapes from MCA with like Smokey and the Bandit and Jaws and stuff in them. I want to say it was like 24 movies. Somebody will have to fact check me on that, but it was incredible. Like, it was incredible to get, you know, to open. It was like opening the Ark of the Covenant, but instead of having my face melt off, you know, it was once again, it was like, what did I say yesterday? It was like getting that just blast of Tony Montana blow right in the nostrils. It was like, oh my God. It was fantastic. It was just the greatest thing ever. And, you know, to see that stuff, and then you could take it home. And again, it was like seeing Star Wars, but the idea that you could take movies home that didn't have commercials in them and watch them whenever you wanted was incredible. And that's why the kids would come to my house, because I was starting to get R-rated movies. You know, we couldn't see, we were 12 and 13. And I was certainly not being discriminatory. So I would show anybody anything. And the better, if I could make it more horrifying, like when Alien finally came out on magnetic video. And what was interesting was, so Andre Blay, this guy, one of my heroes. So Andre Blay had gone to 20th Century Fox and asked to license 50 titles for he had a mail order business first, and then he put out movies like The French Connection and Patton and Planet of the Apes on VHS and Beta. So he created magnetic video, and then magnetic video continued on, and they had licensing deals with other companies. Like they would go to, oh God, what was the name of Avco Embassy, and they would get things like Phantasm, you know, and magnetic video was pretty great. And then once the home video thing started to explode, because Andre Blay had licensed out a lot of Fox's great catalog, and that's why magnetic video was still putting out like Alien, which was a Fox film. Star Wars hadn't come out at this point. Fox went and had to buy back their licenses. So Andre Blay made a lot of money, and they made Andre Blay president of 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment. And that is where Ken Ross, who I later worked for when I was working on the special features for Star Trek The Next Generation and the Star Trek Enterprise Blu-rays, my boss was Ken Ross, who started working in home video with Andre Blay back in the late 70s, early 80s. That's why I never told him this. I might have mentioned it to him, but I revered him because he had started in home video, and I'm like, I'm working for this guy. This guy 30 years ago, he was a hero of mine then, and now I'm working for him, and he basically greenlit Star Trek The Next Generation to get remastered in HD. I mean, it was, you know, you work for these heroes of yours. It's pretty great. I've had multiple opportunities to do that in my life. But so anyway, long story short, I worked in home entertainment. I worked in video stores from 1980 to 88. And the last 3 years I was exclusive to Laserdiscs, because when I got a Laserdisc player, I got a Laserdisc player for my high school graduation, and it was a combi player. It played both Laserdiscs and CDs. And that was the CLD 900, Pioneer CLD 900, for those of you who are interested. So I had my first Laserdisc player in 1985, and I started dumping. By that time, I had thousands of movies on VHS. So anyway, long story short, home video, unlike John Campy, who would tease me all about this, about physical media, home video has been a part of my life in some way, shape, or form since 1980. It is now 2023. What does that make it? 43 years. So for 43 years, I've loved physical media. So I read this article yesterday. You know me and my articles. This article appeared on letterboxd.com. And by the way, I did write a letter to Criterion. So the Criterion Collection, which now puts out 4K discs, they came about in 1984. And they first released 2 Laserdiscs. They released Citizen Kane and King Kong on CAV. And they were the first company that started to pioneer special features. And when I was working at Silver Platters, I had heard whispers of them doing letterboxed movies. And at the time, in America, there were only 2 movies that had come out letterboxed on home video. There was Manhattan, Woody Allen's Manhattan, but the letterboxing, those are the black bars, the top and bottom of the screen. When MGM did Manhattan, they made the black bars gray, which was weird. And the other movie that had come out was The Color Purple. Even though The Color Purple was not a cinema, it was not a 2-3-5-1 film, but they still released it letterboxed, which was interesting. But I wanted letterboxed titles, and the Japanese had started releasing letterboxed titles. They had done like Pony had done 2001, 2010, Clash of the Titans, The Hunger, and one other one, and I forget what it is. And then, of course, they released Star Wars, which was amazing, which I still have. First letterbox releases of Star Wars Empire. By the way, the Japanese Laserdisc release of Star Wars is still considered, in terms of color timing, the best home video release of Star Wars ever. As far as I know, the last time I was hearing about this. Anyway, so there's a really good article that was on Letterboxd yesterday that I started reading and figured, what fodder for a Robservations episode. And this is by Justin Liberty, who's written a lot of Letterboxd articles. Justin Liberty wrote, Hoarders Without Borders, How Home Video is Entering Its Next Golden Age. What have I been saying? What have Dieter Bastian and I have been celebrating? We are truly living through a golden age of home video right now. I have examples. So I want to read some of this article. It's a banner year for physical media, and there has arguably never been a better time for film lovers to build their collections. Home video champion Justin LaLiberty. And by the way, Justin, if you ever see this, I would like to extend an invitation to you, sir, to come on to our show. Let's Get Physical Media anytime you want. Home video champion Justin LaLiberty welcomes the new golden age while frantically finding extra shelf space. Even in the DVD fervor of the early 2000s, the concept of a company putting together a 32-movie, 14-disc set of the films of Al Adamson would have been akin to a fever dream. And this is Justin. I vividly remember our family buying its first DVD player in the summer of 1998. First DVD player in the summer of 98. I had already had physical media for 28 years. When the technology was still relatively fresh, yet marketing for it was inescapable. We, like many other early adopters, he doesn't talk about VHS, he talks about DVD. We, like many other early adopters, took advantage of a promotion that got us free DVDs with our brand new and surprisingly heavy Pioneer DVD player. Well, it's good you got the right one. Unsurprisingly, the promotion would be aligned with a particular studio. We ended up kicking off our budding disc collection that day with a handful of Warner Brothers DVDs, which makes sense because they were the first company to dive in, all housed in the now detested snapper cases: The Fugitive, Twister, Eraser, and Executive Decision. That same fateful day, I was also given the freedom to choose any DVD that I wanted from any store in our local shopping mall. It was with, unfortunately at the time there weren't that many. It was with great excitement that I, at 12 years old, started building my personal DVD collection with a copy of Starship Troopers that I purchased from Suncoast Video. My life was never the same. Fast forward several decades, and there has arguably never been a better time to collect physical media than right at this very moment. As home video preservationists work to increase access to cinema's storied history. Sure, there will always be titles that don't make the leap from one format to another for a multitude of reasons, licensing agreements and availability of film elements being the most often cited. But in terms of sheer volume of unique releases on a monthly basis from boutique labels not released by major studios or their affiliates, and the ground that those releases are covering in regards to creating the fullest picture possible of the moving image heritage on a global scale, there is no time like the present. Justin, amen. Preach, brother. 2023 is already a banner year in home video with filmmakers like Lucas Moodysson, Nina Menkes, Michael J. Murphy receiving exhaustive, he has to go deep. Okay, I get it. It's letterboxed. Receiving exhaustive career-encompassing sets from Arrow Video, Arbelos, and Indicator, respectively. Add to that the upward trend of upgrading catalog titles to 4K UHD with films as varied as The Slumber Party Massacre, Marathon Man, The Return of the Swamp Thing, Marquis de Sade's Justine, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Dazed and Confused, all seeing UHD upgrades via boutique labels in the early months of 2023, and all via different labels at that. But to explain why things are moving so quickly forward for film lovers, we need to jump back. By the time that I had picked up the Starship Troopers disc in the late 90s, which I have since bought 4 more times, twice more on DVD as both a special edition and a Superbit disc, plus Blu-ray and most recently 4K UHD, Justin, you and I are birds of a feather. We park our shuttlecrafts in the same shuttle bay because I, too, bought all of those versions of Starship Troopers. I also had it on Laserdisc. I had amassed for a preteen a sizable VHS collection. I even had a handful of Laserdiscs I was able to cobble together via saved allowance money and annual birthday and Christmas presents. But nothing really prepared me for the collectability of DVD and the ease with which it could be purchased, unburdened by many of the cumbersome hindrances of prior formats. Now, I would like to speak to what Justin is saying here. Unlike VHS, the cheap ability to manufacture and distribute DVDs, amongst other things, and also DVDs had a higher picture quality than it was still NTSC video, but it was a higher end of NTSC video. NTSC video, which was our video standard, it was Japanese video standard, was shitty. Make no mistake, it sucked. It was a terrible, standard def video was terrible. And the Europeans, they had 2 different video standards. They had PAL, and they had the UK had PAL, France had CCAM. And they ran faster, there was more frames, they were just higher resolution. It also meant that if you got tapes from the UK or somewhere else other than Japan or the US, they wouldn't play on the frame rates were different. It was all bad. I found that out when I had a friend from the UK send me The Evil Dead and Dawn of the Dead on tape because I had yet to understand the difference. I did not know the difference between it was bad. But what DVD allowed to happen was basically it's the fastest growing consumer electronic device, the fastest selling in history. So there was an incredible amount of DVD players and people loved to buy DVDs. So what happened was, especially for us, we imagination connoisseurs, we fans of sci-fi, fantasy, horror, obscure cinema, suddenly all of these boutique labels rose up, whether it was Elite, whether it was Anchor Bay, and all of these cult titles, some of them had never even been seen on VHS before, or they couldn't find the elements. There were all of these boutique labels, well, not all these, but many boutique labels rose up. And suddenly on the DVD format, you were able to get movies that I had horrible bootleg copies of, like Dario Argento's films. Getting uncut versions of Tenebrae or Suspiria or Deep Red on VHS or on DVD was incredible. So the format exploded, and cult movies suddenly that you couldn't find, European cult titles, things I'd only read about in books, you could get them, and you'd buy them because they were cheap. Laserdiscs were, I was spending on Japanese import Laserdiscs of Star Wars. I spent $150 a pop on Star Wars Empire and Jedi in '87. It was still very expensive, but DVDs, man, it was incredible how many DVDs people were buying. It was insane. And the picture quality was better. And the best part about DVDs was normally, so the way NTSC video works, and I'm just going to oversimplify it. We were looking at on VHS what's called interlaced frames. So there were basically 60 video fields. There was 30 frames a second on TV, but there were 60 video fields in those 30 frames. So each frame had a field, 2 fields, and they were interlaced like this. And you'd see it'd be like whoosh, 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 whoosh. And so you were seeing these interlaced frames. What DVD allowed was it allowed what was called progressive scan. So instead of watching an interlaced frame, you could get a solid frame, and you could see progressive scan images, and you could see them at 24 frames a second. So suddenly, movies were very cinematic the way they were meant to be, because they were now there was a 3:2 pull down. It gets very technical, but just to keep it simple, you could see on DVD films were running at 24 frames a second instead of 30 with 60 video fields. So the image suddenly looked cinematic. You could see grain pattern. You could see all kinds of things, and it was a revelation, especially if you had a progressive scan TV. I'll tell you a secret. So I was a whore for Pioneer equipment. Give me Pioneer anything. I had Pioneer lasers players. I had they put out component TVs for a while where you get just a screen. Now it seems funny because you get just a computer screen, but it was high-end TVs where you get just a screen. You could get the tuner where you get the channels, or you didn't have to. I bought just the screen, a Pioneer screen that weighed like 100 pounds. I could barely lift it. And I didn't need a tuner. I didn't need the speakers because I had a surround sound system. So you just plug the Laserdisc player into the back of the TV, and that was the only signal running into it. Man, those were the days. But anyway, so you could get progressive scan equipment, and it was amazing. And big screen TVs, they looked okay, but when you had rear screen projected images from a Pioneer set, we're talking circa 99, 2000, and you had progressive scan images, they look fucking great. And it was closer to getting the cinematic experience in your house. So it was pretty exciting. So let me get back to this article. But so that's why the DVD world allowed a lot of science fiction, fantasy, horror, genre stuff, especially because we fans, especially horror fans, demanded it. We demanded it. And it was a great time. It was a great time. So anyway, DVD offered advances in audio and visual presentation over VHS and even Laserdisc, the latter of which, through optical media, was hindered by storage capacity, causing consumers to constantly flip and change discs to watch entire films. That was true, not unlike vinyl records, which they were more similar in size to. The biggest advantage for just about any collector was something that seemed impossible: the death of the dreaded video rental store window, providing access to purchase discs at a sell-through price on the format's release date rather than waiting many months in order to buy a reasonably priced copy to own. This is an important point he's making because they were cheap and you could buy them as soon as you could buy them. It was great. In the years prior, those of us building up VHS libraries were at the mercy of previously viewed copies. We'd obtain these from our local video shops, major chains like Blockbuster, after the new releases lessened in popularity and they had more tapes than they could possibly keep renting. Or, for a new VHS, we'd need to pay the price that rental shops were paying distributors, which could have you shelling out $100 or more to own a popular title. But with DVD, you could go to your local Best Buy on September 21st, 1999, and buy The Matrix at the manufacturer's suggested retail price or lower of $24.98. So I'll tell you a funny story. So when Star Wars came out on VHS, you could not buy it. It was a rental-only copy. And I want to give a shout out to Tom at Island Video. God rest his soul. I don't know where he is. I haven't talked to him in 40 years. But so Tom got all of us, my friend Shade Roop and I, a few more of us. We were able, for $100, it was like $101. For $101 in like 1982 or $83, whatever it was, Tom ordered more tapes and sold them to us, got them for us. So thank you. So, yeah, that was pretty great. I would have done that at the store that I worked at, but they wouldn't let me. So thank you, Tom. More than 2 decades later, and this is something we're entirely accustomed to now, not to mention having various other avenues and nefarious platforming strategies for how movies are accessed digitally in addition to physically, but what DVD managed to do, even more so than VHS, was democratize home video collecting. With VHS, there was guesswork and even research involved with how to buy something, if it was even available, and the cost of entry could be steep on a per-title basis, especially if your interests went outside of the mainstream and or were international. But with DVD, retailers and studios alike saw a market they didn't with VHS, turning home video into something that was typically rented into a commodity posed to battle for precious shelf real estate in consumers' homes, alongside books and CDs. It's safe to say that for many, if not most current-day home video collectors, DVD was the catalyst for their collections. It was Laserdisc for me, but that's only because I'm old. There are plenty of people out there that did and still do collect VHS, Laserdisc, and even other more niche formats like CED, that was capacitance electronic disc. That was RCA's follow-up to the Laserdisc player, but it was a shitty format and it didn't work very well and it didn't catch on. Or Beta. But DVD saw a sea change in not only how we collect home video, but why we collect home video. Laserdisc offered the potential for ancillary materials like multiple audio tracks, extra features, and even multiple cuts of the same film packaged alongside the theatrical release, with both major studios offering more lavish sets than their VHS counterparts, alongside boutique labels like the Criterion Collection, vying for both the money and respect of serious collectors. DVD took what had been happening for years on a small scale with Laserdisc and made it the norm, and then expanded upon that until there was seemingly nowhere else to go. Now, this is where I just want to hop in and say that for me, I had started working on special features back at Full Moon Entertainment with Dave Parker in the early 90s. And we cut behind the scenes stuff, we cut trailers, and they would all go as part of the Video Zone magazine that came along with Full Moon movies, like the Puppet Master movies or Doll Man versus Demonic Toys or whatever. And it wasn't until I went to work full-time for a company called Curdy Pellerin that for a while I was working exclusively making DVD documentary features. I had my own company, which I still have now, Ludovico Technique, that was founded to do X-Men 1 and 2 and The Usual Suspects and Star Trek V and Valley Girl, while I was working for Curdy Pellerin on things like Snow White, Emperor's New Groove, Tron, and then, of course, the years I spent working on Lord of the Rings. So, and then my company, Ludovico, went on to co-produce the Star Trek The Next Generation stuff. The last thing we did was the Shout Factory disc, the Blu-ray of The Hills Run Red, a movie I produced, and then we produced all the special features for the Blu-ray back in 2020 when the pandemic broke out. But so I worked, the special features were one of the great draws of the DVD market. And it exploded. Making special features became a cottage industry that has kind of gone away now, unfortunately. But at the time, from about 99 to 2008, it was an incredible business. A lot of money could be made, and it was just a lot of fun. So it was a fine time. So anyway, so here's like, I remember this. This is the Pearl Harbor. I mean, again, Disney would release these kinds of DVD sets, and people like Michael Bay, don't forget, Criterion put out The Rock on disc. If we were truly to define the golden age, or at least a golden age of home video collecting, it would be the early to mid 2000s, where seemingly every distributor saw the value in packaging. So we had Anchor Bay's sought-after limited edition sets for offbeat genre film favorites like Evil Dead 2 packaged in a tin case. And then there was Disney's Vista series line, which brought shockingly luxe packaging for contemporary blockbusters like Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor, including, amongst other things, a Velcro-bound slipcase, postcards, books, and even an actual cloth strap with a metal buckle. 20th Century Fox also put out like a bust of Roddy McDowell for Planet of the Apes. I mean, there was crazy shit. They did an alien box where the alien head, you could take the discs out of where the spines, the bones went. I mean, it was incredible. Catering to the collector's market became commonplace rather than an afterthought, even if some studios did it better than others. Like almost anything, especially any other type of physical media, the industry ebbed and flowed. Video rental stores were heavily impacted by several trends. The rise of video game consoles like the PlayStation 2, which put a record number of DVD players into consumers' homes, and the distinctive square red envelopes of Netflix, offering discs to rent by mail. That service is set to retire in September of this year. DVD even trudged along amidst the HD format war of the mid-2000s, pitting HD, DVD, and Blu-ray against each other, with each format splitting studio support and having its own exclusive titles on offer. A clear victor was not crowned until 2008, when Universal and Paramount opted to abandon HD DVD in favor of Blu-ray, which would eventually end up in nearly 90 million homes thanks to the PlayStation 3, in a mirror of the adoption of DVD from just a few years prior. I got to give a shout out to the great Mary Forrest. Mary Forrest, for my birthday, gave me a PlayStation 3, and that was where I got my first Blu-ray player. Here's the Criterion Agnes Varda set, which is pretty cool. That recently came out. Flash forward 15 years, and we could be considered to be living in yet another golden age of home video. The HD wars are long behind us. Blu-ray had a very healthy run and is still going, and DVDs, at least for serious collectors, are a relic of the past and in the $5 bin at big box retailers. But for those of you watching right now, there are still more DVDs sold per year than either Blu-ray or 4K. The new format choice for AV enthusiasts is 4K UHD, which offers 4 times the amount of pixels as Blu-ray alongside high dynamic range, giving an increased range in color and the television sets and projectors and sound setups to go along with them. In fact, new market research suggests that the market for DVD and 4K Blu-ray players is only going to expand over the next 5 years. Well, I would hope so, because if players are not manufactured anymore, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm currently, for those of you who are interested, I have a PlayStation 5 and Xbox X. My primary 4K player is about a $500 Panasonic player, and I have a dedicated Sony 4K player that is only for foreign discs, Region B. I don't have any Region C discs, but Region B discs. So when I buy European discs or something, I don't have to worry about region coding. So I have 4 players, one dedicated, and the ones I want to buy, one of them's $1,300 and one's $1,500. Or wait, one's $3,000 and one's $1,500. I have very expensive taste in disc players, but I haven't been able to get one of those yet. But it's fine. The ones I have now are fine. Okay, for people who care about presentation, there's never been a better time to collect physical media. And if the advantages in technical specifications weren't enough, the floodgates have seemingly been opened for just about anything to get a luxurious disc release. From an ever-increasing plethora of boutique home video labels fulfilling desires of collectors around the world. In the heyday of DVD, the big name for home video enthusiasts was the Criterion Collection, a home video imprint that spawned out of the Voyager Company and was aligned with Janus Films, a theatrical distributor known for bringing world cinema to the U.S. Criterion was joined by the aforementioned Anchor Bay, as well as boutique labels and distributors like Blue Underground, Kino Lorber, Tartan, Shout Factory, Milestone Films, Mondo Macabro, and more for DVD releases that combined offbeat curation with robust supplements and the AV presentation that collectors expected. Which brings me to now. Before I go further and show you examples of my own collection of just how robust the current home video situation is, let me jump in and read some. First of all, I've got some tips and some super chats. Our friend Superhero Displays sends in a tip. When I say tip, it's different than a super chat. There's a tip link down below. If you don't want to use the super chat feature, you can use the tip feature as well. That link is in the description of the show. Superhero Displays sends in a tip and says, "Because of my recent schedule, I haven't been as able as usual to catch any of your now sporadic live streams. Obviously, I get why, but now see lately that Robservations has been regular again and has truly felt like balance has been restored to the force. Yes, I'm going to be trying to bring you Robservations every day." Our friend Jeff Yerke and Mrs. Yerke, perhaps the most romantic couple here at the Post-Geek Singularity, says, "Hi Rob, trivia fact. I designed the THX Laserdisc logo for Lucasfilm." You're kidding. "I had one day to design it and received $400 from the PM. That logo is proudly stamped on the back of my deluxe Star Wars CAV Trilogy black box I purchased from Tower. Wow, live long and prosper, the Yerk man. That THX logo is amazing. We should start doing a bunch of apparel printed on shirts. I'm sure they wouldn't care. I didn't know that, Mr. Yerky. That's amazing. So in terms of super chats, Joseph Michael says, "Hi, Rob. I know this question might be unrelated to the topic at hand, but I must ask you, what do you really think about Bob Iger?" I think he's an interesting cat. I think he came up in the entertainment business. I think he's a smart guy, but I don't think he loves movies. He's truly a businessman through and through, and that's fine. But, you know, to be honest, I've admired Bob Iger. I thought he made some great moves. As a person, I don't know. That's a much longer question, and maybe it should be a topic for Robservations. King Tannic, our friend King Tannic, Israel, who, of course, you should watch his show, which dropped a day late, but it wasn't $1 short. It was a great episode. King Tannic's The Otaku Experience. King Tannic says, "Happy 1 year, Rob. My friends of the Burnettwork and all members of the Post-Geek Singularity. Here's to many more great times ahead of us." Well, thank you. And part of those great times is your weekly show, which I love. So I'm so glad to have you on the channel, man. It's been great to meet you and interact with you. And you're a smart cookie. You're going places, kid. REK Films Montana says, "I remember rental cameras where you had to carry your VCR to record with it." Yep. My last VHS player was a modular VHS deck where you could leave the tuner at home and just take the recorder out and use it with a camera. It was amazing. Roger Grind. I know it's Green Grind. You know how it goes, Roger. Roger says, "I think I asked this before, and you were best friends with Dieter. Have you seen Rompatrui Orion, one of Germany's best sci-fi series ever?" I have not. It started the same time as TOS. I think you asked that before. I have never seen it. I wonder if I can get it on disc, and if I can, is it in, or at least subtitled in English? Thomas Bartoldi has been a member. Hello, Thomas. Good to see you. Old Flicks Joe says, "Robert, don't apologize for saying dope." I love saying dope, but I say it too much. Someone will accuse me of cultural appropriation or some shit like that. Joe Panora says, "The first VHS I got was Star Trek 3. The first Laserdisc was Highlander. But my first DVD was Jamie Foxx's Booty Call." A fucking classic. Joe, it is a fucking classic. Thomas Bartoli says, "If you could have superpowers, what would they be?" Just me being curious. Well, I'd love to time travel, and I'd love to fly. That's what I'd love to do. I also love this awesome, epic community. Well, thank you, Thomas. I appreciate that. Old Flicks Joe says, "My first VHS tape was 1989's The Punisher, starring Dolph Lundgren." All right. Leslie became a new member of the channel. Thank you, Leslie. Since you're a new member, I want to remind everybody, this is an off week, but every other week we have member calls. So tomorrow, ¿Qué pasa, BGS? 97% Español. That's our Spanish-speaking show. I get made fun of. But that's Roberto Suarez and Alex Montano do that show every other Saturday. And when they're not doing the show, we're doing member calls here. So that's fun. Jermaine King says, "Rob, I'm not sure if you remember, but my job is ordering film for my university. Our students love Laserdiscs, especially the OG uncut Star Wars trilogy, as they should. The only problem with Laserdiscs is the image quality." Whew, it's rough, dude. It is rough. Roger Grind goes on to say, "Being from Germany, I remember buying VHS from the UK, and it cost me like $40 for 2 episodes of The X-Files." Yep. And I was so happy when DVDs came around. Another thing that DVDs did that became huge was you could get whole TV series in one box, which didn't used to happen. So that was really something that DVD brought about, which was very cool. Planet 628 says, "My mom ran a VHS store in the 80s. Great memories." Wow, that's crazy. Roger goes on to say, The one and only time I saw a Laserdisc was on a vacation in Holland, and it was Star Trek VI. I loved it as I could see in English. And you know what was interesting about that Laserdisc was that was the director's cut. It was probably the director's cut of Star Trek VI because it had Rene Aujabenois as Colonel West, which was not in the theatrical version, but it was on the Laserdisc version. So, and Roger goes on to say, I bought the 1701A model from AMT that same vacation. Those were the days. Those were the days. What happened to those days? But those were the days. Rec Films Montana goes on to say, buy a Blu-ray disc, buy a Blu-ray disc drive for the PC. I have 2 Blu-ray burners in my PC. I have a Blu-ray burner right here. I like them. They're good. Nick Markin says, so why do you think manufacturers still are making so many DVDs? Wouldn't they be moving away from that since it's the oldest compared to Blu-ray and 4K? I'll tell you what, most people don't care. And DVDs are still cheap to buy, cheaper, especially if you have kids. I think that's why people still buy them. A lot of TV shows are only on DVD. And I think that that's why people have held on to them. Blu-rays and 4K especially require you have to really enjoy these home video formats. You need to spend, my speakers in my little media room were $6,000. And I have a 4K 65-inch OLED. I'd love to rock the 83-inch, but living in the new digs and stuff, I don't know when that'll ever happen. But it's just to really enjoy the quality, you need to spend so much more money to buy the kind of equipment you need to have that upgraded experience. So I think that's why people still buy DVDs. So Mikey Gussler, plus it's so cheap to make them. Mikey Gussler says, I heard that the Blockbuster website went live and there have been talks of the business making a return. Do you believe that will happen? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it will. Or I don't know. I think here's what I see the danger as, is that a lot of what was popularized because of Blu-ray and now 4K, all of these cult titles, they're all niche titles. So when they go on to streaming services, they don't do as well as other movies. And streaming, this is my great fear about our cinematic legacy. And I guess I don't have to worry about it that much longer in my life. If I was 30, I'd be worried about it more because I would be living longer than I am as of right now. But I'll stick around for a while. But I've acquired all the movies that I really want that I would worry would go out of print or something. But with streaming services, if people don't watch movies, you can see exactly how. And the thing is, you have a successful show like a Bridgerton or a Succession or a House of the Dragon or even Friends on HBO Max. People are going to watch those shows. And if, let's say, you get a beautiful 4K version of The Hitcher, how many people are going to watch The Hitcher? But thank God Second Sight's putting it out. That's the problem, is that all of these movies that I love, call it the psychotronic films, science fiction, fantasy, and horror, these boutique labels are keeping them alive. And I think that that's what video stores would be good for, is being repositories of foreign films, psychotronic films, all the genre cinema film, like I said, science fiction, fantasy, and horror. I don't think that mainstream Hollywood would ever necessarily need to return to Blockbuster because all that stuff is streaming, So I don't know if it'll happen en masse. I think somebody might open a Blockbuster and it'd be a fun thing to have around just for fun. Mikey Gussler goes on to say, with the return of vinyl records and now cassette tapes, do you believe we will have a VHS renaissance? No, because VHS is terrible. The picture quality is awful. Maybe there were digital tape formats. If they made a faux VHS. See, the thing about vinyl records, not so much cassettes, but vinyl, is there's other uses, DJ uses, and the sound of vinyl. And again, the totemic nature of having a vinyl record with a sleeve and artwork. It's very, very cool. And that's part of the reason I think a lot of these, as you will see, as I will show you, a lot of these boutique labels spend as much time on the packaging as they do on the films themselves. So I don't think that it'll ever be like that. Plus, vinyl records are a lot cheaper to produce than movies. A lot cheaper. Tom Jr. Jackson, our own Tom Jr. Jackson, our moderator, saw Guardians 3 today, and he loved it. I have yet to see it. I was going to go see it, but I have yet to do so. Matt Mobile says, I'm 33, and I just bought my first record player and a few albums from Walmart. This gives me hope that DVD and Blu-ray players will be purchasable for my lifespan. I hope so. Great show, Rob. Well, thank you. Thank you. The great Irene Jobson, she of the dirtiest mind of the Post-Geek Singularity, and we all love her for it. Shout out to JJ for his second random. Shout out to Tom Jr. Jackson for his second random live stream, and it was dope. Also, why do you always come when she worked that knob on your TV? Well, you know, it's because she's good at working the knob. What can I say? Randy, let me see if I can get this. Suyamatsu? Randy Suyamatsu says, that's a cool last name. Ooh, this is a good question. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 50s or 70s? I got to go with Philip Kaufman's 1978 remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers because it's one of my favorite horror science fiction films ever. If you guys haven't seen, Shout Factory put a great version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers out, and Kino Lorber released a 4K version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It's beautiful. Go Kino Lorber, unofficial sponsor of this channel. Here's what I love. In the 1978 Invasion of the Body Snatchers is, first of all, I love the verisimilitude of it. It's a movie where our main characters do not know that their city has already been invaded by aliens. It's already happened, so there's nothing they can do to stop it. They just don't know it has happened yet. And it's one of the great exercises in 70s paranoia. You know, it used to be political paranoia. You can talk about it being the me decade or whatever, but oh my God, what a great fucking movie. I mean, what a cast. Donald Sutherland. So good. You know, Jeff Goldblum. Oh, Brooke Adams. I love that movie. It's such a great movie. So I've got to go with that one, Randy. Let's see. Mikey Gussler says, Peter Jackson has talked about releasing a third cut of the Lord of the Rings films for the 20th anniversary. Now that it's past what happened, is he still working on it or are they dropping it? Mikey, I've heard that he wanted to do a whole new documentary and that Warner just didn't want to pay for it. You know, they don't know how they were able. The extended version of Return of the King cost $20 million to finish that extra footage, like an hour long. But they knew it was going to sell. But nowadays, they don't know if they can make enough money. So it's kind of a bummer. So I don't know if they're going to do it. Superhero Display says daily Robservations again. I'm going to try. I mean, at least 5 days a week. Sean Hoover says, I wore out my VHS from 1982 or 83, which was a recording of Star Wars when it was first broadcast on HBO. Best quality copy I ever had up through my Laserdiscs. Totally. Mikey Gussler says, in terms of 4K Blu-ray, James Cameron will be a king this year. Both Avatar films, The Abyss, True Lies, and Titanic released this year. Will you buy these transfers, and will we get the extended cuts of these films? Mikey, the answer to will I buy them is yes. Yes, I think we will, especially The Abyss. I think we really need the director's cut. I think it's a superior film. And also, we also need Aliens in 4K. Please, 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 please. Disney, I got to call Bob Iger. I got to go play squash with him and say, bro, call Steve Asbell at 20th Century Fox. He's the president over there. And tell him you're going to let Steve personally pick somebody please empower Steve Asbell at 20th Century Fox Studios, or pardon me, it's not 20th Century Fox, at 20th Century Studios. He's the president of the studio. He's a great guy. Let him pick and choose which Fox, or formerly Fox, which 20th Century Studios titles can we have in 4K? Can I please have Patton? Is that the French Connection? I mean, come on. Can I get my Aliens? Steve will know. Steve can look at a list and he'll approve them. Tell him he has to approve 50 titles. I want him. Come on, man. Make it happen. 200 Watt Studio says, we were poor when I was a kid. I got my first VCR after I graduated high school. My first 2 tapes were Star Trek 2 and Star Trek 3. Played them over and over a lot on our 20-inch stereo TV. I know, right? So 200 Watt Studios is correct. Star Trek 2, so VHS tapes were usually rental only. You couldn't necessarily buy them. A lot of places would sell them to you, but they had what were called rental pricing on them. Sometimes tapes were $100, and they would soak rental stores. That's why people didn't buy them. But Paramount, beginning in 1982, started what they called the sell-through initiative, where they were sell-through meaning sell through to the consumer. And they made videotapes, VHS tapes for the first time, and beta at first, to sell to consumers, and they were $39.95. So the first 2 were Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan and Officer and a Gentleman, and then after that, they like Flashdance was a sell-through tape. Raiders came out, and that was a big deal right before Temple of Doom. There was a little trailer for Temple of Doom on that tape. So yeah, Rec Films Montana became. Wait, where were we? Where was I? Rec Film. Oh, you became a member. Thanks, man. That's very nice of you. Welcome to the party, pal. Actually, I was going to say, welcome to the party, Richter. What did he say? Or welcome to the party, pal. It's John McClane, or it's Total Recall. Matt Mobile says, I wish I could buy the Marvel Disney Plus shows on physical media to add to my MCU collection. It really bugs me. Bro, I got to tell you, Disney fucked us all physical media collectors because we did not get the IMAX enhanced movies, and they were playing shenanigans with their Dolby Atmos tracks. I think, I will say this, Bob Iger, at least with the Infinity Saga, if you go back and you give us proper 4Ks, remaster your movies, give us the IMAX enhanced versions, and go full bore into your Dolby Atmos tracks, I will rebuy the steelbooks of at least the first 23 movies again, because you fucked us, Disney. You used to be one of the best home video companies, but then they tried to, with Disney Plus, let's get everybody to come to Disney Plus. And admittedly, the Avengers movies and Star Wars, they look spectacular on Disney Plus, but I would like to get the physical media because it's less compressed. I'm just saying, you fucked us. And listen to Matt Mobile. I too would like a few of the Disney Plus shows. They're never going to do that though. I don't see them ever putting out the Disney Plus shows on because they want you to subscribe to Disney Plus. So, Kellraiser, that's a cool name, who's been a member for a year, bought my first VHS recorder on an RCA with a wired remote in 1985 from Circuit City. The first tape was the TOS episode Arena. I love that. That's your first tape. That's amazing. Sharts. Hey, Rob. Would love it if you could read my letter DM you told me to send you that you said you would address last week, but never did. Oh, okay. I can do that today. Nick Markins says, Rob, you should show off your entire physical media collection in a video someday. I want to see the collection of the Pharaoh of physical media. Well, since you ask, part of this show is going to be to show examples of what kinds of things you can expect to buy. So I did bring with me some examples of what I love from around the world. And you can see the kinds of things that we're getting today. Now, while this has been released in the United States, Dieter Bastian got this for me. This is a box set. This is a 4K box set of An American Werewolf in London. This comes from Turbine in Germany. And as you can see, it's a big, beautiful box set with incredible artwork. And if you open up the box, if I open this sucker up, it's pretty neat. So you open it up and it opens like this. But there's a lot of cool stuff in here. Now, a lot of people, we like this stuff because if you're a collector. Now, this comes with postcards, And what's great is, like, this is the poster. So in all of John Landis's movies, and I don't know exactly why, there's some place that says "See you next Wednesday." This is the porn theater, or the porn movie that's playing in Piccadilly Circus. So, and then this comes with a bunch of different postcards. It also comes with a coaster from The Slaughtered Lamb, a Beware the Moon sticker, if that's what you want. And it comes with actually a couple of coasters from The Slaughtered Lamb. I mean, these are real coasters. You could use them if you want, or for me, because I'm a collector, I just keep them in the box. It comes with the soundtrack for An American Werewolf in London, which is pretty nifty. It comes with this huge booklet, a huge book on the making of the film. Of course, it's all in German, but now that I have Google Translate on my phone, I can just pass the phone over and it'll show up in English. It's amazing. One of my favorite things ever. Here is a poster. I don't think this is maybe it is. I guess it is. It's a reproduction of the European poster for the movie, which I won't unfold now. And then, of course, it comes with, here is in fact, I mean, this could be its own disc, which is another slipcase box. So, and then you've got this, and it's 3 discs. And this is just for An American Werewolf in London. This is just one, and this is the kind of premium stuff that Dieter and I are always buying, or I'm making Dieter buy it and send it to me. And this is just one great package from Turbine in Germany. Now, it depends. There's different packages like this all over the world, depending on what you're looking for. What I like to find, I mean, obviously having something like that is really cool. I'm really not going to take the swag out, but I just love this. They did 2 different boxes, and luckily Dieter and I wanted different ones. So there's an example of a full-blown foreign disc. Here's something interesting. The movie Saint Maud, low-budget horror film that I quite like. Here is the Saint Maud Steelbook. So that's a Saint Maud Steelbook, which, I mean, who would have thought that a movie like this would get the Steelbook treatment? Not so much anything on the inside, but I really like this movie. This is a British disc, so pretty cool to have for Saint Maud. And, you know, the fact that somebody made a Steelbook for Saint Maud is what makes it worth getting to me. Of course, you know, this was an old catalog title from 1981, Dragon Slayer, just released, new transfer from Paramount. This, you know, I didn't know this is a Steelbook. So amazingly, this is some of ILM's earliest Go motion effects work for the Vermithrax pejorative dragon. So this was cool to get in a Steelbook. And I do buy these are Steelbook sleeves. You get 30 for $25, and they're hard plastic sleeves that I use. Actually, this Steelbook even comes, this is an O-ring, an O that goes outside the actual Steelbook. So it's packed in there pretty well, but I do have these sleeves for extra added protection. Why? Because I'm anal retentive or whatever. But hey, you know, when I'm dead, someone's going to come back and go, wow, Rob Burnett really took care of his discs. I'll put that together later. This is an example of a classic film put out by a company called Arrow. This is the 4K version of The Last Emperor. Bernardo Bertolucci's The Last Emperor. And again, Arrow does a great job. I believe this has both the director's cut, the extended version, and the theatrical version. And this also has collector's cards, multiple versions of the movie on the inside. And I really like these like hard cases, which are nice. It also has a poster and then a book, really nice book. Arrow does a really great job of the story of Pu Yi. So I mean, these are great, and this is an Oscar winner, but still, it comes to us from a boutique label because apparently the major studios aren't even interested in their Oscar winners. Now, this one's for Irene Jobson. Other things you can buy, like I'm a big fan of 1970s bush porn, as I like to call it, before everyone, you know, cropped all their pubic hair off. But even partner labels for something like Vinegar Syndrome, here is, for those of you who like your early 80s porn, the Taboo series. There's a lot of really interesting 70s porn if you're into that kind of thing. I like 70, this isn't so surreal, but I like the movies of like Henry Paris, aka Radley Metzger, like The Image, The Score, The Licorice Quartet, and then his porn films like Barbara Broadcast, which is very hot and surreal. And so this is a box set of, a box set of porn from Vinegar Syndrome's partner label. Or no, this is Vinegar. This is actually Vinegar Syndrome, one of my favorite boutique labels. They put this stuff out. They also put out like the great Australian epic Body Melt. They're doing the restoration, the 4K restoration properly of Paul Verhoeven's Showgirls. They put out, God bless them, they put out Liquid Sky. I haven't even cracked these open yet, to be honest. I mean, it's but look, I mean, they go for the old school, the ultimate sin, and you know they have reversible covers, and I'm getting demonetized. So these are pretty famous porn films in the, I think was it late 70s? I don't know, but hey, if that's your thing, you can get this box set from Vinegar Syndrome. And if you don't want to go full on porn, and you want to go softcore bush porn, look at this bad boy. This is from Germany. That's right. Sylvia Crystal in the softcore epic of softcore epics. This is a 4K restoration of the original Emmanuel. Thank you, Dieter Bastian. Once again, also coming to us from Germany. Now, this is an amazing... I can't even open up this book, but here's this. Well, see, they're demonetized. So this is a book. I mean, this is a really nice, it's printed on very slick card stocks. Oh, I can show you that. But it's got the whole history of Emmanuel in it. If you know Emmanuel, very famous movie. But then it also comes with, this box set is truly outstanding. It comes with big pictures, if that's what you want. It also has the original rating label from the German censors, what the German censors had to say. It comes with full-on, now these are full-on one-sheet reproductions, and they are 27 by 41, and there's 4 of them. And so this is quite the package. This Emmanuel package. And of course, as I'm getting all this, here is the actual, I wonder how much of this I can actually show, but here's the movies, and here they all are in their various versions. So if you want that kind of stuff, and then there's even, I can't even show you that. There's even more stuff. So this is an incredible package. If you're a fan of the Emmanuel movies, for the record, I like Emmanuel 2 the best. But again, an incredible package that if you're a fan of these movies, to get this 4K, and a lot of these 4K discs never make it to America. So the only choice you have is to get these versions. Now, you can bet your bottom dollar, Severin has announced their 15 disc set of Black Emmanuel. I will get that box set and proudly display it right next to this version of Emmanuel. So this therein ends the Irene Jobson portion of the collection. Then there are other things, like the Germans also put this out. This Coke, before they changed their name, this is David Lynch's Dune. And this is this is a hard plastic. This is incredible. And this slides out like this. And I won't open this up because there's so much stuff in here. But this has multiple versions of the movie. It's even got the Spice Diver edit that was on YouTube for a while before it was taken down. This was a much sought after thing, long since sold out. But, well, maybe you know what? I got to open it a little bit just because why not? Why not, buddy? So you've got your Dune card that goes here. Put this here. And again, God bless the Germans. So it comes with this awesome booklet, which, what's in here? Let's see what's in here. I don't even know. I mean, this is an extensive booklet that has tons of behind the scenes photos. It also has storyboards. Wow, it has a lot of behind the scenes photos. This is really incredible. It's got stuff of all the effects work, so this is very, very cool. It also comes with a version. The great Bill Sienkiewicz did the Dune comic, so it has the graphic novel containing the entirety of Sienkiewicz's Dune comic work that is probably pretty hard to get. It comes with posters. I don't know what all these posters are, because frankly, I only open this to watch the stuff. Oh, that's cool. So it comes with different versions. Like here's a German version, Der Wüstenplanet. So, and if I don't know, maybe one day I'll just bust all this stuff out and build my home theater and take all of these things. And these are the different posters from different parts of the world. Then you get to the different versions of the movies. Like here's the film, the David Lynch version, and it's on Blu-ray and 4K. Then it's got a bonus material disc, which is cool. Bonus materials. Then this is the alternative TV cut, the Alan Smithy cut that was on TV with all the artwork that's longer. And it's also got the Spice Diver cut. And then, of course, the soundtrack album. So, again, these kinds of things are very, very cool to have, especially the different cuts of the movie. Let me put this here. And plus, is it overkill? Yeah. But where are you going to get the Spice Diver cut on Blu-ray? Like nowhere. It's not even on. They pulled it off YouTube. So where are you going to get it? Well, you can get it if you have the German version of the disc, which I do. So let me just put this back, slide this in, and that's who doesn't want this? And of course, then as a collector, once they announce something like this, then it's like, well, what am I going to do to get it? And they weren't shipping to the United States. Thank you, Dieter Bastian, once again, hooking a brother up. Now, other things that have come out recently. Here is a 4K version of Jackie Chan's Police Story 3, a.k.a. Super Cop. Now, this comes from 88 Films in the UK. Again, there's a poster in here, different versions of the movie. There's a beautiful book. And again, these are all really thick paper, really great stuff. And this is in English. There's a poster. The version of the film is 4K UHD Dolby Atmos. I think it's Dolby Vision too. So again, and hard. This is just this is a great movie, by the way. So you got to get that. Jackie Chan's Super Cop. This recently came out. This is a steelbook. Actually, mine's open, but I'm sending this to somebody. This is the UK version of Nicholas Roeg's Man Who Fell to Earth, the uncut version. This just came out as a steelbook. And again, I love Nicholas Roeg, and I love this movie. So again, to have it in 4K from the UK. Now, this is Region B, so you have to have a multi-region player in order to play this if you want this disc. I just got this from Europe. This is from Curzon Films, Krzysztof Kieslowski's The Double Life of Veronique. A great film. Again, great foreign movie on 4K. I don't think an American company other than Criterion would distribute this in 4K, but here it is. Great to have that. So you get great foreign cinema as well. Warner Brothers just released this, James Dean's Rebel Without a Cause, a beautiful 4K transfer in the last month, celebrating their 100th anniversary. This is the Criterion version of Dazed and Confused, which just came out in 4K. The only thing that I have a problem with Criterion is if you have the Blu-ray release of this looks exactly the same. So you have to make sure that if you buy something from Amazon that you actually get the 4K version. Another movie I like from 88 Films, an old Christopher Lee film, directed by Mario Bava. Woohoo! The Whip and the Body. This is a pretty twisted movie if you haven't seen it. Again, this also comes from 88 Films in the UK. They also put out my beloved Inframan and Two Moon Junction. Woohoo! So, yeah, and they have all the different versions of this. There's a book in here too. Great artwork. Great. 88 Films rules. So some of these companies, I just buy whatever they put out just to support them. Here's an Arrow release that just came out. This just came out. David Cronenberg's Naked Lunch, based on the William Burroughs book. And again, Arrow is always killing it. Arrow also put out The Last Emperor that I showed you. Again, they do really great books of essays and stuff. So, I mean, anything you ever want to know about this movie, it's great. And these books are great because they always reproduce all the different international posters, and they do a really fine job. Arrow is, again, anything that Arrow puts out, genre related, it's worth buying, pretty much. And then, of course, to bringing up the rear, one of my favorite video companies. I don't even know how they make money, but out of the UK, Second Sight. Second Sight just released the definitive 4K version of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Again, this is a huge, huge box set. I mean, if you love, to me, this is such a watershed moment in horror history. But again, this comes with a lot of collectible cards in there. So you've got that. This is a hardcover book that comes with it. And again, this book it's full of essays, behind the scenes material. I mean, you'd spend $20 just alone on this book if you bought it in a store. And then all the different versions of the movie. So there are 3 discs, and there's the UHD and then 2 Blu-rays with those special features. There's new special features here as well. So, if you're a horror fan, you understand that Texas Chainsaws, I don't know. I don't know if I think The Exorcist is Star Wars for horror fans, but this has got to be something, And then, of course, Second Sight put out, I mean, I know this Dune set is great, but my very favorite piece of physical media ever released, ever. In terms of movies. George Romero's Dawn of the Dead is one of my favorite films of all time. This is out of print. You had to jump on this when it first came out. Again, this came out from Second Sight. This has 3 different versions of Dawn of the Dead on it. It has the Argento version. It has the director's cut, and it has the theatrical cut. Look at that. All the different versions of the movie. Books, swag, soundtrack albums, the 2 library soundtracks that he used. I'm telling you, this awesome book, the novelization of Dawn of the Dead that Susanna Sparrow and George Romero wrote, which I actually read because I got it from the Sci-Fi Book Club before I saw the movie. And then, again, a hardcover book with new artwork. This is it, man. This is definitive, dude. I'm gonna put in my will that I'm gonna be buried with this. Because why should anybody? I'll be like an Egyptian pharaoh. I'll just have my entire crypt full of physical media I don't want to part with. It'll be something like that. So yeah, those are just some examples of physical media that I've collected recently. Certainly by no means definitive. Those are just a few interesting items I thought I would show to people on this stream. I don't know if anyone's still interested in that, but hey, there you go. Let's see. Let me go back and let's see. I got a Killraiser says, I bought my first VHS recorder, an RCA with a wired remote in '85 from Circuit City. First tape was TOS Episode Arena. Yes, I read that one. So Nick, I just don't have all my entire physical media collection in one place, but I'm going to. As a matter of fact, I'm going to start broadcasting Let's Get Physical Media with my entire collection behind me. So we'll see that. Old Flicks Joe says, what is your holy grail of your Blu-ray collection? Oh, probably that Dawn of the Dead. Here's the thing, Old Flicks Joe. Everything I've wanted that I have pretty much. I mean, there are things like I'd love to get Logan's Run in 4K, but all the stuff that I really wanted, Exorcist is coming out in 4K. I got Phantasm in 4K. Even stuff like Mario Bava's Planet of the Vampires I've got in 4K. Most of the things are really coming out. I got Godfather Apocalypse Now, which is pretty great. And that's why it's such a great time to be a physical media collector. You could probably get almost all of your favorites on 4K. And if they're not on 4K, there's probably a pretty great version of it on Blu-ray. I mean, I get it. There's a lot of movies that never made it to the format. There's a lot of, there's movies I can't wait to get on 4K. And I think Second Sight's doing both Near Dark and The Hitcher. There's been no official announcements about them yet, but I've heard they might be doing those. Love to get those, on 4K. I'd love to get Forbidden Planet in 4K, of course. War of the Worlds finally came out in 4K, which is great. So eventually this stuff will all come out. But yeah. So Grails, Old Flicks Joe says Mad Max versus Dominic Toretto race. I have to say Dominic Toretto would win the race, but it wouldn't matter because Max Rockatansky would get to him and hunt him down. Dominic Toretto's faster, but he'd never escape Max Rockatansky. Never. 200 Watt Studio says, welcome to the party, pal, is Die Hard. See you at the party, Richter, is Total Recall. Yeah, it's true. See, when I'm live, I can't remember it all, but that's correct. And you know what? It's funny because they're both kind of in the same frame, welcome to the party, pal, and see you at the party, Richter. Good stuff. NJR 1984 says, as a kid, trying to find a VHS of the Killer Tomatoes Strike Back or Killer Tomatoes Eat France was my preteen mission. Trying to order them from the video store, had them in triple digits. Yeah, those are hard to come by. Hard to come by. Michael Patowski says, is it Patowski? Says, Rob, are you a little disappointed with the Second Sight Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4K box set package compared to the 4K Dawn of the Dead box set package? No, not at all, and I'll tell you why. To me, it's all about, first and foremost, the packaging does not matter ultimately. What matters is the transfer of the movie. Is the movie the best transfer you can get? I think the Second Sight transfer is amazing. I love it. But in terms of material, remember, Dawn of the Dead had 3 different versions of the movie. So that with all the things that came with each version of the movie. So there was a lot more movie to include with Dawn of the Dead. So I was surprised, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre book is great. And I think the package was terrific. I mean, I loved it. It's not Dawn of the Dead, but there's not as much movie there. When Texas Chainsaw Massacre was made, I thought it was a great package. I thought it was solid. It doesn't touch the Dawn of the Dead package, though. But nor should it. I mean, there was no way it could have. There's no way. So, but I thought it was comparable. I thought they did a great job. Superhero Displays says, do you have the Superman 1 and 2 4K and the 4K Donner Cuts steel books? No, you know what? I probably should have waited and bought that. I didn't. I just got the one box set. Here's the thing. If I were to buy, I would buy the steelbooks for the first 2. I would never buy steelbooks for Superman 3 and 4. Those movies are rough. I can't sit through those movies. They're tough. Insematic 101 says, you legend from Canada. Cheers. Well, cheers back to you. Well, this isn't really cheerable, but cheers back to you. Jermaine King says, kid me loved Laura Gemser more. Emmanuel purists don't claim her as Emmanuel, but the grown version of me knows that Sylvia Crystal is number 1. Yeah, but Laura Gemser went to a lot more places and did a lot more things. That's why I can't wait to get that Emmanuel box set, because it's interesting. Okay, so the first Emmanuel, when in the 70s, I mean, you had Deep Throat and you had couples going to see pornographic films. That was a big thing. Not all couples wanted to do that, so softcore porn, Emmanuel was just respectable softcore. And the first Emmanuel, it's all beautiful and all that, but Emmanuel 2 is a little bit more explicit. Emmanuel 3 is really disappointing because there's barely any sex in it at all. But yeah, I like softcore. I do enjoy softcore eroticism. I'm always going on about how we don't have erotic films anymore because people can just go to Pornhub or YouTube or RedTube or YouPorn or whatever, XTube, I don't even, whatever tube you're going to, and see whatever you want. So the eroticism has kind of died on the vine. But the great thing about the first Emmanuel and the second Emmanuel is they're gorgeous travel logs. And then you get to watch beautiful people copulate. What's not to love? But Emmanuel 3 didn't even have copulation, so it's not good. But the Laura Gemser, quote unquote, black Emmanuel, but she wasn't. It's funny because she was Indonesian, so they call her Black Emmanuel, but she's Indonesian. But the Black Emmanuel films were wild, man. There's women in prison movies. There's a horror movie. I can't wait to get that Severin box set. But what they needed to do was team them up. Did they ever? I don't think they ever did that. Fan with no name says, "Hey Rob, I'd love to check out Free Enterprise, but I can't find where to watch it. It's not really available. I'm going to make it available on a Vimeo link, so if people want to watch it, I'll give the link out. I'm also waiting to start my Star Trek binge after you drop your 10 and 20. I'm finalizing the graphics on that, and I'm going to you will get that. In the meantime, starting Legend of the Galactic Heroes. Now let me stop you on that. Hold on wait. So as everyone knows, I've said it before, my favorite animated series of all time is Legends of the Galactic Heroes. However, Legends of the Galactic Heroes, the Die New These, this is the remake of Legends of the Galactic Heroes. This is not what I am talking about. I'm talking about the original OVA series, the 110 episodes that took over 10 years to come out. This is the new series, which to be honest, I've only watched the first season of. I just got seasons 2 and 3. I don't dig this nearly as much as I dig the original. So just remember, you got to watch the original. You probably are, because I've said this before, but I just want to make sure. David Gonzalez says, "Congrats on 60K. I love this channel." Well, thank you, David. That's very nice of you to say. Tony sends in a tip and says, "Rob, thanks for the nostalgia trip. I remember that young face on the title screen from when I would visit Silver Platters. I was always impressed with your knowledge of films and Star Trek. I still have my original DiscoVision titles, and some still play." Well, if you came into Silver Platters, I have to say, man, did I love that job. I mean, I worked at a store, so Silver Platters was always fun. I mean, again, here is, for those of you, here is me working at this is Bellevue. This is the Bellevue Silver Platters. Now, if you want to see some peak 80s Burnett right there, I don't know what I was thinking. That sweater, that tie, that shirt, that hair. Did something die on my head? I don't know, man. I guess I was trying to duplicate the Duran Duran experience. But that was me working at Silver Platters. And I think it says Laser Bob on my name tag. I think it did. So, yeah. This has been a lifestyle choice, man. A lifestyle choice. But anyway, this has been a lot of fun. I just thought that I didn't even get. Let me get through more of this article. I feel bad because I started reading this article and I just kind of dropped it. And then I'm going to go get this DM. I got to find this DM and read it. So hang on, let me get back to this article. For people who care about presentation, there's never been a better time to collect physical media. And if the advantages and technical specifications weren't enough, the floodgates have seemingly been open for just about anything to get a luxurious disc release. I mean, it's true, right? From an ever-increasing plethora of boutique home video labels fulfilling desires of collectors around the world. In the heyday of DVD, the big name for home video enthusiasts was the Criterion Collection, a home video imprint that spawned out of the Voyager company, which I already read that. Actually, I already read all that. There's that Al Adamson piece. You can get this box set from who? Severin, who's putting up Black Emmanuel. Now, in 2023, there's a dedicated label for just about anything a cinephile would want, with certain labels focusing on specific regions, eras, genres, modes of film production, leaving nary a stone unturned. Often overlooked or even intentionally marginalized, filmmakers are finally getting their due, with unexpectedly comprehensive collections created for filmmakers like Ray Dennis Steckler, Andy Milligan, and Al Adamson, all via Severin Films, and nearly unheard of cult impresarios like the Ormond family getting a similarly lavish treatment from Indicator this year. That is happening alongside exhaustive box sets for revered canonical figures like Ingmar Bergman, Federico Fellini, Wong Kar-wai, and Agnes Varda, and they're all from Criterion. I have all of those, actually. Allows these filmmakers to be put into context with one another, leveling the playing field for in-depth study and, to an extent, the preservation of their work. In an era where cinematic spectatorship is increasingly digital, with more people seeing films via platforms and digital rentals than physical media, having these films not only available but packaged together in such a manner is a cause for a party. Even in the DVD fervor of the early 2000s, the concept of a company putting together a 32-movie, 14-disc set of the films of Al Adamson would have been akin to a fever dream, and it would have required even more discs due to less storage capacity. It's only now, with the current ecosystem of the multitude of home video labels and the increased dedicated audience for them, that things like this have become possible. It's happening at such a rapid rate that my consistently updated list of titles missing from Blu-ray that I'm personally longing for is shrinking seemingly by the week. While not exhaustive and admittedly based on personal taste, the list exists as evidence that not only are many films being released on a constant basis, but there will always be more where they came from. Here's a great picture, which is good. Those Shaw scope box sets on the bottom, I have those. The great Shaw brothers. That's a lot of their kung fu movies from the 70s and early 80s. We also live in an era where the ability to connect with fellow collectors is increasingly easy. Dedicated collection tracking apps and forums like those offered via Blu-ray.com and numerous blogs and podcasts devoted to covering the onslaught of home video releases on a weekly basis ensure that the culture of home video is being embraced to a degree that it has never been before. Here on Letterboxd, there's even a handy tool that gives pro and patron members the ability to filter lists via own and owned tags, something I personally use on a daily basis. I easily created a list of my disc collection, tagged it as owned, and now when I browse films on the Letterboxd site or app, including user-created lists, I can filter by titles I own. Here are some others, from Ruse E., Leon Vegas, Darren Carver Balziger, Amanda, and this whopper of a list from Bat the Blu-ray Collector. It's easy to find more avid collectors to follow via a simple search of the tags. The social connectivity and clever curation of the Letterboxd platform is thus merged with personal collections, easing or at least lessening the need for cumbersome collection tracking software and allowing cinephilia and collection building to exist in tandem. First, using the tags own or owned opened up extra features for subscribed members, the ability to show or hide films you own when browsing any Letterboxd lists, and for the forgetful, your own ownership status will show up in the Where to Watch panel, so you can take a walk to your shelves before you hit rent. Here's Justin, the article of this article. This is actually a funny caption, whose 4 favorite movies are Keedy, Magic Mike XXL, Sleepwalkers, and The Adventures of Elmo in Grouchland. While I don't have a credit on it, I did work on Sleepwalkers, so I know what you're talking about. It's impossible to predict the future, and none of us truly knows where the home video format will be a year or several years from now, though market research shows that media players won't be going out of production anytime soon. I'm dubious of that, actually. See Oppo. What we do know is that at this very moment, people want to physically own the movies that they love. There is a comfort in having collections, knowing that something in your possession can't be taken away from you by an outside party, yet, removed from an on-demand platform or changed in any way, as digital files can be on all counts. With access to various types of entertainment becoming increasingly digital, the only way to truly have unfettered access to the media we desire is to obtain it physically and take care of it. Home video hasn't only democratized access to cinema, it has democratized the stewardship of it as well. If conserving photochemical film elements is an act of preservation, so is managing a library of discs and or tapes, whether at an institutional level or a private one. Anyone building a collection, big or small, public or private, wants the same thing, for these films to be seen. And right now, whether you're more interested in the films of the French New Wave luminaries or filmmaking in the gutters of the 1970s Staten Island, I love both. There couldn't be a better time to be a home video collector or an avid cinephile. And again, this article, and I want to thank Justin for writing it because it was great. Justin La Liberty is the Director of Operations of OCN Distribution, sister company of boutique home video label Vinegar Syndrome. As such, neither Vinegar Syndrome nor its affiliated labels are discussed in this piece, but you can follow Vinegar Syndrome on Letterboxd. And by the way, let me just say, Vinegar Syndrome fucking rules. And you know what? Hang on 1 minute. I'm just going to look something up here on my letters. Justin La. Let's see. Maybe not. Somebody from Vinegar Syndrome's sent me oh, wait a minute. Hang on. Somebody sent me a letter and asked, I wonder if it was Justin. I'll have to find out. Let me just look and see. He might have sent me somebody from Vinegar Syndrome's partner label asked me if they could come on Let's Get Physical Media. I'll have to look and see, but it might have been Justin. Justin, if that was you, yes, you absolutely can come on. You're my kind of guy. So you have an open invitation. Now let me see if I can go over to Twitter and find this DM that I promised to read. And let me see if I can find it. Say I don't know what your name is, so let me see if I can find it. Is this? No, it's not. That's not. It's not him. I have to go look. Let me see. Let me get your name and let's see. What did you say? Because as now I'm looking, scintillating YouTube. Joe Panora says R&B, Flock of Seagulls, bro, all good. Is it though? That was some Flock of Seagulls hair. Yeah, bask in the Burnett Flock of Seagulls. Unfortunately, I did not run so far away from there. I did not. So there I am. As I'm looking for this, you can gaze upon my amazing hair. Let's see. Shards. Let me see if I can find. I'm looking. Did you write to me under that name? That's the real question. I'm looking. I'll have to look. I can't. You know what? If I knew you would be here, I'm looking and seeing if I can find it. I don't know if it's under your name there or if I can, because I have so many DMs. It's hard to see. I don't see that name. I got to see what. I'll find it, but you know what? Because I want to read that letter tonight anyway. I'll read it on. I'll look for it and read it on Midnight Musings. We are going to have Midnight Musings at 9 tonight, so we will have that. But in terms of that, let me go back and read another letter because, kids, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, one of the fun things about this channel is I do read your letters. So are you tired of looking at this picture yet? People are like, what? So let me read a few letters. I got some letters. So, and it doesn't cost anything. Letters. Okay, here's a letter. I guess this is appropriate. This is from Antonio. Antonio. Yeah, Antonio. It's from Antonio. The subject is The Layers of Zack Snyder's Justice League Trilogy. Hi, Robert. First-time writer, long-time listener here. I absolutely love Zack Snyder's DC trilogy and was saddened by your understanding of it. You always mention them as cool, metal-looking myths, but with no joy or hope. I couldn't disagree more, my good sir. The more I watched the movies, the more I was impressed by them, especially the layers upon layers of the story. The highly political themes, including jingoism, whistleblowers, using false testimonies as war propaganda, to the philosophical questions upon which Lex builds, especially something like theocracy or theodicy. The movie showed there sometimes is grayness in Superman's actions, no matter how well-intended they are. It shows the effect on other people. When Clark and Lois had an argument, think about what could have happened. Think about what did, Lois responds. The fact that this version of Lois Lane was inspired by journalist Marie Calvin, who was one of the most prominent war correspondents of her generation, adds another layer of why I love it. Lois saves Clark as many times, if not more, than he saves her. I agree with all those things. That's why I like the movies. But here's the thing. There's still no joy there. There's a lot of meaning, and there's a lot of adult-oriented material, which I would say, yes. But you know what? When you're dealing with Superman, there also has to be something for the kid that, as we see in Man of Steel, that takes a red towel and wraps it around his neck and flies around the room pretending that he's Superman. Where's that? And so that's when I'm saying that there's no joy, I'm not saying they're not good movies. What I'm trying to say is that the reason that they did not connect with the public the way that perhaps the studio wanted, why they didn't make more money. And let's be clear, they were disappointments at the box office. They were disappointments at the box office because they were too serious. They had too much on their mind, and they didn't have enough of their childlike sense of wonder, which Superman needs. And the 1978 Superman, when you first see Superman in Metropolis, that's the kind of joy I need. Where Superman is being Superman. Don't look, just fly. I mean, where's that? We didn't have any of that. But anyway, how a movie like Batman v Superman made it through the modern studio pipeline is a mystery. Totally agree. But I'm sure glad that it did. The problem with art today is that the customer just doesn't interact with it truly or understands it. People with limited life experience, travel, knowledge, just want what they already know. They are not open to new things or don't possess the ability to interpret and understand it. I would say that some people, that's true of some people. Zack Snyder said, if you don't test the morality of the character, then it's dead. It can't evolve. It can't move. It can only answer questions that don't break canon, and that's not the way to treat these legendary characters. He made me appreciate these characters on a whole other level. I've never felt so much humanity and tenderness within them. I've never felt so much joy with a comic book movie as I felt with Clark playing with his dog at the end of Man of Steel, with a cape on while his parents were watching. I've never felt so much sincerity as when I saw his monument and the writing on it in Batman v Superman. If you seek his monument, look around you. Also, I never felt so much hope and humanity as I did with Victor Stone, when Bruce told him it was his nature to fly in an inspirational and metaphorical way. How he found a family in them, and because of them he grows, forgiving his father. Meanwhile, his father inspiring him to continue his journey. These are my shortened opinions. I don't think that they're right or wrong, they're just mine, and hopefully I offered a different perspective to you. A perspective in which I became a fan of this trilogy exactly for the humanity and the joy. Zack showed me these giant mythical figures and gods, but he made them more human than human, so I fell in love with them. Wishing you all the best, Antonio. Well, Antonio, this is a great letter. And I would say that you and I absolutely agree on these movies. And all of that is true. And I don't disagree with you at all. The problem is you still don't have the Superman movie that an 8-year-old kid can love. Zack Snyder made a bunch of comic book movies that were, I would call them, portentous. I love them. I do. I really enjoy what he's done. But they're apocalyptic superhero operas. And I love that. I thought Man of Steel was a great first contact story, but there's still no unbridled joy in these movies. They're too heavy, man. And look, I think they're fucking metal. Fucking metal. I do. I always thought that. That's why, but I see them as like if Wagner made superhero movies. You know, Goethe Damerung, the Ring of the Nibelung cycle. That's what that's what he's doing. That's what Zack Snyder's doing. And I don't think, I mean, if you're an 8-year-old, you might think it kicks ass, but I don't know if you'd want to be Superman after watching these movies. And that's what I'm talking about. And that's why I'm saying there's no joy in them. I like them, but they didn't connect with people in a 4-quadrant way, the way that, say, Captain America, the First Avenger did. Now, am I trying to compare these movies to that movie? No, But I'm saying that the reason that the Marvel Universe succeeds as well as it does when it's succeeding is because it appeals to 4 quadrants. It appeals to you when you're 5 or when you're 50. And I think Zack Snyder's, I call it his Justice League trilogy, didn't quite do that. But I agree with everything you said. Everything you said is in those movies. And that's why they're good movies. And that's why they're food for thought for us adults. What they're not good for is kids that are looking to have a great superhero experience. They're hard to watch, man. If you're a kid, that's got to be some heavy. I mean, look, when I was 8 years old, I might have liked, I probably would have liked, I was too old. If I heard Quiet Riot, or maybe we're going to fight the first Beastie Boys record, You Got to Fight for Your Right to Party, I might have, dug it as an 8-year-old. But even then, as an 8-year-old, I don't think I wouldn't have liked Queensryche's Operation Mindcrime. I was about, at 8, I was like Styx. I'm sailing away, set an open course for the Virgin Sea. On board, I'm the captain, so climb aboard. We'll search for tomorrow on every shore. Because I wanted to be in that starship. Because at the end, they went on a starship. We climbed aboard their starship. Come sail away. That's where I was when I was 8. I wasn't at Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice yet. I didn't want to see somebody deliver a can of Granny's peach piss to Holly Hunter. I wouldn't have been there at 8. I mean, some kids might have been. I don't think I was. So that's all I'm saying. So when I'm saying that there's no joy in those movies, there's not a lot of childlike sense of wonder, but they certainly appeal to the adult in me. This is a tough one. Let's see if I can get this. Jaroslav Lekowicz. I think it's Jaroslav Lekowicz. I think so. That's a great name, though. It's from Poland. Greetings from Poland. This is a quickie for Rob because he knows his shit. I read that the new Dune movie was shot full in IMAX or on the Arri Alexa. Do you think the non-IMAX release will be 2:3:9:1 aspect ratio like the first movie, or the ratio of the current trailer, which is not 2:3:9:1 like the trailer for the first movie? What ratio is it? It kind of got me worried that the new movie will break that visual continuity. I loved the wide cinematic feel of 2:3:9:1. Any thoughts on that? Well, Jarek, that's a great question. So for those of you, if you read it in the Hollywood Reporter, James Gunn talked about they made 600 different versions, I'm not kidding, of Guardians of the Galaxy 3. 600 different versions. So a lot of times, so here's what happens, like James Cameron has never actually made a widescreen movie. He shoots spherical Panavision. Basically, think of it as like a square, a little bit more of a rectangle square. And what you do is you shoot what's called an open matte. And then you can protect in that open matte if you want it to come out widescreen. And officially 4K widescreen, it used to be 2:3:5:1. 4K is 2:3:9:1. That is, so for every 1 unit tall it is, it's 2:3:9 units wide. So 2 units, 0.39 units wide, or 2:3:9 units wide. So that's what 4K is. Or in terms of pixels, a 4K image on home video is, hold on a second, it's 4096 by 1716 pixels. That's what you're seeing when you're watching a widescreen 4K image. Now, for IMAX, if they're shooting for IMAX, they have this big, giant square image, which they could keep for that IMAX image if that's what they're going to do, and that's how they'll show it. Sometimes filmmakers like Christopher Nolan will shoot, if it's not entirely IMAX, you go to different aspect ratios. Like The Dark Knight goes from 2:3:9, and then it opens up where it uses more of the top and bottom of the frame, the IMAX image. So what Jarek is asking is, what's the IMAX? What is? I would imagine that Dune's going to have that IMAX. It'll be full frame for IMAX probably, but then maybe the regular theatrical release will be 2:3:9, only because Denis Villeneuve uses 2:3:9 so well. So he was protecting for 2:3:9, but he's going to have more image on the top and bottom. Of course, then they have to finish the effects work. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. Maybe he decided to go full IMAX for the Jihad, and he didn't. He 239 was not enough. He wanted to open up that image and make it more square. Like Steven Spielberg, for instance, when he made Jurassic Park, he was a other than color purple. If you start out with Jaws and Close Encounters and 1941 and Raiders and E.T., or maybe E.T. was I don't remember. I think E.T. was 185 too. But like with Jurassic Park, he went more square because he needed the height to show the dinosaurs, because he liked to shoot the dinosaurs at human head level, so we were always looking up. Like when you first see the dinosaurs, it depends. Filmmakers a lot of the time will change up the aspect ratio depending on what they're using the aspect ratio for. So it really depends. That's a good question about Dune. He might have wanted to go bigger because of the battle sequences, or maybe he'll pull a Nolan and in the IMAX theater he'll be full frame, or he'll change the aspect ratio. I honestly don't know the answer, but it's a good question. See, now you've got me in now I gotta know. I gots to know. That's a little Dirty Harry for you. Anyway, on that note, and Shiz, I'm gonna find your email and I'll read it. But on that note, I'm gonna. Oh wait, let me make sure that I don't even know. You might have fired in more super chats or tips. I don't want to leave without getting to them. Let's see where we are at here. Yeah, people send some more stuff in. Cyber Shaman X says, Jim Fosgate, genius father of surround sound, died late last year. I heard that. His estate is up for auction, and I was fortunate enough to acquire one of his personal all-tube FAP V1 surround sound processors. Wow, that's cool. But you got to put that in your house as art. Don't use it. Put it up as art. But it'd be cool to maybe. So yeah, that would be great. The Outcast Collective says, really loved your stream with Lorena today. So on point. Wouldn't the world be boring if we all agreed on everything? I like having diverse friends. Wait a minute, I didn't do a stream with her today. Did do a stream with her today? I don't know. So we'll see. Zachary Zabale says, did you ever go to the Clockwork Orange? Did you ever go to the Clockwork Orange at Worlds in Hollywood or Vertigo's nightclub in downtown LA to dance your 80s night away in the late night 90s? Oh, yes, in the late 90s, all the time, as a matter of fact. Vertigo then became Glam Slam, and I used to go down there even more. But yeah, that was it. Yes, we used to go dancing a lot in the 90s. My friend Sean Fanning and I, who's no longer with us. Yes. Yeah, we were nightclub denizens. Rec Films Montana says, in my films I shoot 16:9, but I utilize the 235 area and pan up and down depending on what I want to keep. Yeah. Absolutely. I totally agree. It all comes down to, what do you want your film to look like? On that note, everyone, I think I'm going to bring this to an end, and in less than 2 hours, join Lael Rockwell and we will be on. It'll be the 50th episode of Midnight Musings, so join us. Thank you all for being here. I want to thank Tom Jr. Jackson and Louise X. Sparrow for moderating. I don't know who else was here, but thank you both for being here. I appreciate everything you do. And on that note, remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And with that, King Tannic says, I changed the aspect ratio in my documentary when the choirs performed. I expanded it to give the audience a sense of what it's like to see a live performance. See, I love that. I think that's very, very, very cool. I want to thank everybody for supporting this channel via super chats and tips and becoming members. Remember, we have member chats every other week, usually on Saturdays. We've had to move them around sometimes to Sundays, and they begin usually at 11 a.m., and they usually go till 3 or 4, sometimes longer. And we just shoot the shit for all you members. And also, I'm going to start dropping other videos like we're getting the second tomorrow, I've been told, the second Lana Ewan reviews video. Lana has watched a movie she never watched before, Battle Royale. Not to be confused with Johnny Royale if you're a Beastie Boys fan, but Battle Royale. I am dying. I mean, the thing about Lana Ewan's reviews is now I have something on my own channel that I'm actually chomping at the bit to watch. So I think that's pretty cool. And not just for the obvious reasons. If you've seen her picture on Twitter, I get it. That's a reason to follow her. But I think her witticisms and her personal stylings, her comedic timing, and her presentation on the Lana Ewan reviews speak for themselves. Of course, her Cinco de Mayo picture on Twitter ain't bad either. But so tomorrow we're going to have that. I'll be back with the Robservations as well. And of course, we've got more stuff coming from and C. Dieter Bastian and I talk about what we got this week on... I got a German steelbook, but you're going to have to wait and see what that is. I was very excited about it. Cost me a lot of money, but it was worth it. And on that note, everyone, it's time to go. And I want to thank, once again, this episode of Robservations was brought to you by The John Campea Show. Find The John Campea Show on YouTube or find the audio version wherever you get your podcasts. And one more time, here's me in the 80s at Silver Platters in Bellevue, Washington. Oh my God. I don't know if I should apologize for inflicting this on all of you or not. But thanks. It was another banger episode of Robservations. And I got to tell you, I'm like re-energized. I'm fired up. I'm having a lot of fun doing these shows, man. I'll see you all later.